It's a take, give and take. And
Good morning. We are live. I'll let you finish in a moment there, Phyllis.
Oh,
Didn't mean to interrupt you too much. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and potential Toastmasters. Welcome to Wake Up with Toastmasters. I am your Club Growth Director for District 115, Ken Richardson. And with me today is my lovely co-host, past District Governor and Distinguished Toastmaster, Phyllis Tribby. Good morning, Phyllis.
Good morning, Ken, and good morning to our public out there. How's everybody doing?
Well, I don't know about everybody, but I'm doing great. And we are honored to have as our guest today, immediate past District Director, Kristin Harrell. Good morning, Kristin.
Good morning, Ken and Phyllis. I'm excited to be here this morning.
Well, we are very excited to have you, and we want to talk about district leadership today. And one of the tasks that people may not realize that falls to the immediate past District Director is to chair the District Leadership Committee, or the DLC, as it's known. Tell us a little bit about that committee, if you would, Kristin.
Absolutely, Ken. That is a committee made up of myself, the chair, and 4 members who represent each of our 4 divisions, A, B, C, and D. Our job is to basically vet all of the people that are interested in district leadership. So we will go over their applications, make sure they meet any qualifications that Toastmasters has put into place. And then we'll have a short interview with them to make sure that they're a great fit for the leadership role that they want to go into. And it's our job to make sure that the district is fully staffed with leaders for next Toastmaster year.
How many positions do you have to fill? Can you go over them real briefly?
Absolutely. We have quite a few because starting from the top, we have our trio, which is our district director, our program quality director, and of course, our club growth director.
Now, that's not an automatic, is it? You have to.
No.
Oh, okay. So
it is not an automatic. And the interesting thing is in our district, because we were an offshoot from District 33, and it seemed to be their trend, people would go club growth, then program quality, then district director. That is not even the norm in a lot of other districts. And it is not an automatic even in our district because you still have to run for the office. And if you have somebody who decides to run against you, you never know what's going to happen in an election.
Nothing like a competitive election. So go ahead. I'm so sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to make that point. So go ahead with the rest of the leadership you're soliciting.
Sure. So those are the top 3 elected positions, but also elected positions are our division directors. So we need 1 for each division. And again, there will be an election there, especially if there's more than 1 person who wants the position. And then we also have our appointed positions, which are area directors. And there's 1 for each area. And depending on where the district is at the end of the year, that number is a little bit in flux, but there's usually around, with you have 4 divisions, there's usually somewhere around 16 to 20 of those that we'll need. And those are appointed. They are not elected positions. So it's just a matter of the person saying that they're interested and then the district leadership committee vetting them and appointing them to that position.
So even though they're appointed, you still go through an interview process. They still have to fill out the application and what have you. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because we are not allowed to appoint somebody to a position, but what we do is we prepare a report for the district director and we present that so that the district director will be able to use that information to appoint people.
And then there's all of the elected district leaders are confirmed, aren't they, through the district council?
Yes, absolutely. Our election is going to be in, I believe it's May this year, early May. And then after that, at our first district council meeting of the next Toastmaster year, the district council will vote to confirm that list of officers, including the appointeds.
Is there a position that you consider to be the most difficult to fill or to find interested people?
The area directors are difficult just because we need so many of them. A lot of times it's getting people to step up into that trio. the Toastmaster rules require that we have at least 2 people run for club growth director. And sometimes that's a little difficult. It just depends on what's going on within the district. You know, COVID has put a whole new wrinkle into our trying to get people to step up, because there's a lot of uncertainty as far as what the district's going to be doing. Are the clubs, especially area directors, because they represent clubs, are those clubs going to be online, in person, hybrid? What's going to be the situation? So that's kind of given us a little wrinkle in trying to get people willing to step up into district leadership.
What are you looking for an area director? What kind of commitment, what kind of characteristics or personality or skill sets do you find the most beneficial that lead to success as an area director?
Sure, that's a great question, Ken. You know, what I've found is a passion for Toastmasters goes a really long way. You know, it's great if you are organized and you have great leadership skills. Those are important, but this is also a learning organization, and nothing will teach you those skills quicker than being an area director, is what I've found. So those are important, but a commitment to Toastmasters, to our district, and to the clubs that they represent is what's most important to me. That's what I'm looking for, because you are the go-between between the clubs and your division and upper leadership. So you need to be a person who is involved in your clubs, who wants to be involved. As an area director, you're only required to submit 2 area director visits for each club during the Toastmaster year. However, we're really looking for somebody who's more interested in spending time with their clubs, learning and growing with all of the club members, and bringing information to help them.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Kristin. Excuse me. Now, Phyllis, you and I were area directors some time ago. Share with us what you liked best. We don't have to tell them how many years, but I'd like you, Phyllis, to share with our audience, what was it that attracted you to being an area director, and what did you like most about it?
When I joined Toastmasters, I never had any intention of doing anything other than a speech. When I got the book and I would do one after another. So I was in probably 3 years when somebody came up to me and said, you know, you've never been an area governor at that time. Why don't you be an area governor? And it just never occurred to me to take that extra step. I had been to council meetings. I had been to all of the area contests and the division contests. I'd been to the district since I had joined, but I never thought of taking that step until somebody actually came up and said, will you do it? And then I found that I did love it. It forced me into going out and meeting more people. And like I said, there's so many presentations that you can give to the new clubs or any club at all. And what I found was they rarely know what all the incentives are. So they're missing all of those TI bucks that they could attain, but they need to know that information. So there's much that they need to know that they don't read about or they don't pass around. It only goes to the president and they don't tell anybody. And there might be somebody else in that club that's really the pusher. So area director is a favorite position. I've heard it said it's the only position I would redo. Well, I have done it twice and I enjoyed it both times.
Yeah, I think now that I've been in Toastmasters for a while and filled several leadership positions, I'd have to say all of them have been unique in one way or another and have had different advantages from a developmental concern and a perspective and a learning perspective. But I really appreciated that first area director. My exposure outside of the club level began with contests. And then I had someone come up to me and say, you know what, we need an area director. And I said, okay, what's that?
That's what I said too. I'm like,
and so once it was explained to me, I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I had, at the time, I was a little bit nervous about it, but I was assigned an area that was outside of my home club. And I thought, I'm not sure I really like this, because I knew a little bit about some of the other clubs through the contests that I had participated in. But it turned out to be terrific for me, because I got to sort of move outside of my comfort zone and go to new clubs. What about you, Kristin? What do you remember about your days as an area director?
I had a similar experience to you, Ken. Somebody came to me, and I was only in my second year in Toastmasters, and they asked me if I was interested in being an area director. I had no idea what they were talking about. They said, well, do you intend to become a distinguished Toastmaster? And I hadn't really thought about it. And I said, well, I guess. And they said, well, then you're going to need to be an area director. So I said, okay. So what I was signing up for. I also had an area that was outside of my home club, and most of the clubs met at noon, which was a little difficult for my work schedule, but I managed to work it out and go there. And in order to make sure that everybody got FaceTime with me, I also had coffee chats once a month so that they could come and sit with me and talk about things and share information with the other clubs, because sometimes I think the best ideas are already happening in clubs. It's just nobody's sharing the ideas. So that way they can all get together.
I agree with you. And I loved those meetings with the other area directors. It was really a learning experience, because what I found is that we do tend to become somewhat boxed in. You know, we are at the club level, as Phyllis was saying. I'm happily going along, doing speech after speech, trying to get my CC. But I love the notion that, you know, this is something you have to do to become a distinguished Toastmaster. And at the time I was like, really? Do I have to do that? I don't want to do that. But I am so glad that requirement was there, because it was a terrific experience. And it's still a part of the requirements for DTM, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. If you have any intention of being a distinguished Toastmaster, you need to serve a year in district leadership. That typically starts at the area director level. And, you know, I too, it was the only one that I would be willing to repeat, just because I really liked that level of leadership where you have the direct interaction with the other clubs and the other members. And I still have friends from clubs. Actually, one of the clubs that I was the area director of, later years down the road, disbanded, but I'm still friends with some of those members, because it's just, we made that connection, you know, that one-on-one type of connection. I think that's a fabulous part of Toastmasters, and people who don't serve as area directors are really missing out on that, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The clubs that were in my area, it was the old area, let's see, H1 or H2.
Mhm.
It must have been H1, because I remember Pahrump was my area, and driving to Pahrump to attend their meetings was always interesting. But I always felt so welcome there. They had a great group. They still do. Many of them are the same, but my initial response was, what do you mean I have to drive to Pahrump?
Yeah.
But it was a terrific experience. And I have friends, like you said, Kristin, that I have made from those years that we are still friends. Many of them are still in Toastmasters. And that's extremely rewarding. I think one of the things that we don't often talk enough about is those lifelong friendships that you build in Toastmasters. Not everybody does, but certainly I have. Over the years, I've been a Toastmaster for 14 years now, and I just treasure the friends that I've made and the skills that I've been able to polish and hone over those years as well. Phyllis, if you had an opportunity, you said you would go back and be an area director again. What would you do different this time around?
Well, I'd definitely be more relaxed. I was in the time of Wendy Harrell, and she was an international director. who lived here in Las Vegas, who has since passed. And I think it was her that kind of kept telling me, what else do you do as the area director? Okay, have you been here? Have you told them this? And she was definitely my mentor to help me along the way. But I would be more relaxed. Of course, I was extremely nervous. Many of the people that I had to go out and talk to had been around Toastmasters so much longer, done so much more, and I felt insecure, definitely insecure. And of course, I'm coming from a person that sat in a corner and never talked to more than one person at a time. And now I'm pushing myself to go out and tell these people what's happening in the district. And it was like, oh no, very nervous about each one of my speeches that I went to. Now, conducting a meeting like the council meeting, I didn't have any problem. I got someone from every club to come to the area council meeting, and we would decide on theme for our contest, everything that was happening there. So that part was okay, but just to go out and give them a speech, I was a little bit leery. You would think I would be more nervous about the leadership, but it was not. It was talking in front of people that I didn't know. But so, yeah, I'd be more at ease, more easily able to explain things than I did in the past.
Totally agree. And Kristin, I wanted to ask you, as you recruit area directors for the coming fiscal year, what are some of the things you would say to them that would entice them to want to be an area director?
Well, first of all, it is a requirement for DTM. But beyond that, even if you have no designs on DTM, you learn so much. It's funny because I remember my first year as a Toastmaster, our area director came in and they were like a god. I thought, oh my goodness, area director. And then when they asked me to be one, I said, oh, you mean area directors are just regular people, just regular Toastmaster members? And I had to laugh at myself because I had put them up on a pedestal. And so I think a lot of people think that they're just regular Toastmasters. They couldn't be area directors. So I just want them to know that area directors are just Toastmaster members who decided to step up, to give and to receive from Toastmasters. And I think anyone who is in this organization is here for some type of personal growth. There is nothing that will help you grow more than stepping into district leadership. And I just hope that people will not be afraid of it, because it's nothing to be afraid of. There are a ton of people in district leadership to help you out. At every level, there are people to mentor you, to help you. You are never in it alone.
And you mentioned that you also are recruiting division directors, of course. You're looking for 4 division directors. Do most of them come up through the ranks? They're first an area director and then a division director. Is that typically the way it works?
They tend to. It's not specifically a requirement. There have on occasion been people who ran for division director who did not serve as area director, but they typically had some other type of district leadership, because there are some roles that are not elected. They're also appointed, such as administration manager, public relations manager, logistics manager. There's other roles that people may have served in and feel like they are ready to step straight into division. But I would suggest that you don't do that, because you will be cheating yourself out of a really great year if you don't serve as an area director first. So I hope that people do that. But anybody who served as an area director, it didn't have to be this year. It could have been last year, 10 years ago. And maybe they just weren't ready to move on to the next level at that time, and their situation has changed. Absolutely come back, and look into becoming a division director.
Now, do you find that most of those races you have multiple candidates for each position, or is it typically just one person?
No, you know what? I kind of wish we did, because it would give our district a richer experience, I think, to actually have a good election and have multiple people campaigning. We kind of miss that aspect sometimes. We are a new division and we are a new district and we're a slightly smaller district at this point. So we haven't seen that in the past, but I would absolutely welcome if that becomes something that happens for us in the future.
And it's a natural progression then to ask from area director to division director, then you might end up being in one of the appointed positions, public relations manager.
Right.
You mentioned administration manager. I was in that role 3 times,
Yep.
Once in District 33 and twice in 115. And it's actually a role that I'm fairly well suited for. I'm good at taking notes and producing minutes. And then there's finance manager, that's another appointed. And then we have a parliamentarian. Kate Hollis is filling that role this year, as she often does, and does a terrific job. But the other elected position that you mentioned is the one that I currently occupy as Club Growth Director.
Yes, sir.
So you're soliciting at least 2 candidates for that. That's a Toastmasters requirement, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. We do need to have, that is the one office that we are required to have more than one candidate running.
Why is
the
that?
Club Growth.
Why do they do that?
I think because Toastmasters saw that there were a lot of districts where there was that progression through the trio. And I believe, and I'm not 100%, but I believe that they felt like districts were getting stuck with one person who went through the 3 without having much of a choice. And then that way, if they had a choice at Club Growth, then that person could progress through the levels and they would be fine. There's been some dissension in districts where not quite the right person ended up in Club Growth and started moving up, and then they had some issues. So I think that Toastmasters is trying to prevent that by making sure we have a choice at the Club Growth level.
Well, I think that's probably true, and I think that's pretty good reason. But I also believe you should have all up and down. You should have 2 candidates for program quality, 2 candidates for district director. I think that would give our membership more of a sense of they have a lot of input in the process, because I think as it is now that many of our members think, okay, well, you're going to start out as Club Growth and you're just going to move on up. And even if I might not like you in that role and I don't get a chance to vote for anybody else. So I think the trio should always be competitive. That's just, my personal opinion. What do you think, Phyllis? You've gone through all of those chairs and all of those positions, I should say. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you start out as growth director, you volunteer to be a candidate. You're thinking 4 years. You're not thinking, I'm doing it this year, and if I don't want to go on, I don't have to run again. It's just always in my background that it was for 4 years. Once you started, unless you did something seriously wrong, no one would run against you. And I can see why it's good, because you're learning those other positions while you're with the trio, but it's also holds back the people that would be great at marketing or growth, and those that would be more toward education to not run for those roles because they've gotten their background beaten into them, which was me. I was beaten into it. Is that, you don't run against somebody unless there's something wrong. They've done something wrong or they're not suitable for that position, and then somebody would run against them. So I think you're right. I think opening it up to 2 people for each, or more, 3 people
Sure.
for each position might be finding the best person, rather than this poor person that says, oh, I can't run for growth. Then I'd be stuck in this position for 4 years, and I'm not committing any 4 years. So
yeah, I think, and at our meeting, we will have opportunity to have nominations from the floor if someone at that point decides. And as a matter of fact, that's kind of how I became a division director. I didn't initially sign up but I was approached actually a lot later past the nomination process, because the person who did sign up to run for Division H director at the time, something came up in his work and he had to do something else. So I was actually nominated from the floor to be division director, and that's how that worked. Well, we're kind of running out of time here, but I want to give Kristin a chance to sort of wrap up her presentation today. I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing with us this information. So what's your sort of wrap up for today and your message to our members?
Well, I want to tell people how they can sign up.
Good.
So if you are interested in being an area director, division director, or any of the roles that we talked about today, please go to d115tm.org. You click on the leadership tab. I think it says district leadership, and then become a district leader. And that will take you to a form you can fill out. When you get that, probably starting next week, the district leadership committee and I are going to start going through those and starting to schedule interviews with people. So you will hear back from us if you fill out a nomination form, probably by next week. And we have a deadline, February 28th, to get those nomination forms in. So please go to d115tm.org and fill out a nomination form to become a district leader. Otherwise, I'm going to start making phone calls.
Or actually, you could send Anthony around. He's pretty scary.
I might have to. And if you're an area director this year, expect a phone call from me asking people to be division next year.
Wonderful. Phyllis, any final message for our viewers?
It's great work and consider it. I would say that area director is the best, but there's nothing wrong with division either. I enjoyed it. In fact, I ran once and lost, so I had to run a second time. So do all the positions.
Excellent. I think that's great advice, and I would echo that. District leadership is incredibly rewarding. It can be frustrating. It's always challenging, but in the end, it is incredibly rewarding, and you will not regret it. That's our show for today. I want to thank our guest, Kristin Harrell, and my co-host, Phyllis Tribby. If you have any questions or if you need further guidance on how to sign up to become a district leader, you can email me at d115cgd@gmail.com. Coming up, we will have, I think it's February 12th, the second Saturday of the month, we will, in February, we will have our educational enrichment night. Look for the newsletter. You will have information on what classes are being offered. And the last Saturday of the month is game night. Registration for that will also be published in the newsletter. And on January 24th will be our online version of the TLI. So hopefully you'll be, if you didn't get a chance to attend in person or to attend the early bird version, please shoot me an email and I will make sure that you get a registration link. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And again, thank my guests. And if you'd like to be a guest, keep in mind that Wake Up with Toastmasters is on Facebook Live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And Monday and Friday, our program quality director, Jean Williams and Jean Dunford, her co-host, are the hosts of the meeting. On Wednesday, our public relations manager, Jennifer Smith, and she's on today. Hi, Jennifer. Glad you could join us. Conducts the show, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays it's Phyllis and I. So if you'd like to be a guest on Wake Up with Toastmasters, we'd love to have you. This is an opportunity for our clubs to sort of pat themselves on the back and talk about your club. What's unique about it? Why should we join your club? So it's a sort of an opportunity to market your club and to tell us about your Toastmaster journeys. What got you in Toastmasters and why do you stay? Those stories are always very, very interesting. So we appreciate having them. Okay, well, we're going to sign off and we will see you again next week. But don't forget, tune in tomorrow, or you can watch the recorded version of Wake Up with Toastmasters. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Sign up to be a district leader. You won't regret it.
Absolutely. Listen to Kristin. She knows. Kristin knows.